500 pounds of clay in the back of my trunk, really testing my car's suspension right now. We have, I think, 4 powdered glazes here now, and then a few ordered online because they didn't have them. Girl, I am so relieved. I was running out of clay. I was literally only working off of reclaim. I didn't have any glazes left. I mean, it's great to be in production, but whew, this hurt your girl's wallet just a little bit. So pray for my car, pray for me, and then when we get home, we'll get mixing. We are back home in the garage studio. The glaze is unloaded, the clay is unloaded. It is currently 32 degrees outside right now. I wonder if you can hear that leaf blower. Just absolutely going at it. Oh, those are my neighbors. I love them though. My really cool neighbors are doing awesome things. So if you can hear that, I'm sorry, please forgive them. They're very nice. The reason we're outside is because when you're mixing your powder glazes, air ventilation is really important. You certainly can do it in a studio for sure. You'll just wanna, first of all, always wear a mask, whether you're inside or outside. Preferably have a air ventilation system or crack a window, something like that. Just have a little air movement is very essential. Powdered glazes in powdered form are level 3 toxicity, and I don't think it's on a scale from 1 to 10. I think it's on a scale from 1 to 3, so that's like cancer causing shit right there, so wear a mask for sure. Step number 1 is to acquire all of your materials. Number 1, a respirator, one like this, definitely not one that's just like a mask that covers your face. Numero dos, we got a electric drill with a paint mixer on the end. You don't have to use an electric one, it's just really convenient and a lot easier. You got some skizzers and some clear packing tape. And optionally, distilled water or any kind of water, and of course your glazes. The reason why I say optional for distilled water is because some people say, and it is possible that if you use hose water, that the minerals in the water can theoretically affect the glaze outcomes and what happens reactionally with those chemicals. However, in my personal opinion, if I cannot mix my glazes with hose water or just sink water, I don't necessarily use them. So I do mix mine sometimes with hose water, sometimes with distilled, sometimes with my house water, and I'm finding completely fine results, and hasn't been anything really wrong yet. I do have a bucket of house water and distilled water because the hose is frozen because it's been extremely cold recently. If you're just starting out buying powdered glazes, I would recommend going with like a 5-pound or even a 3-pound tester, where you just get a small bucket and just use this as a test. I am going to be reusing oatmeal by Laguna. That's a staple for me, so I'm just refilling a bag that I haven't used the rest of yet. Mako Shino by Mako, also a staple for me, so I'm using a 10-pound bag of this. We also got Copper Float 10 pounds from Mako. This is new, I'm really excited to try it. And in these bags, Amico ships their glazes in bags like this, which is completely fine. They also give you a sticker, which is awesome because when you use your glaze and you put it on a bucket, it's so easy to forget what it is. So I love to just put these stickers, boom, right on the side. So I love that Amico does this. And they also send instructions for those of you that are unfamiliar, and they're really helpful. Basically, the recommended amount of water, drilling with a mixed attachment, the amount of time that you drill, and the waiting period, dipping and firing, and adjusting the specific gravity of the water and glaze. So the specific gravity of something is the baseline density of something compared to water. So the density of water is 1. So if an object or whatever has a number greater than the density of 1, then it is denser than water and will sink. And similarly, if it is less than 1, then it will float in water. So if a specific gravity of something is 2.5 and water density is 1, then that material is 2.5% more dense than water. If a specific gravity of something is 0.8, that means it's 0.8% less dense than water and will probably float. When you are mixing your powdered glazes, you are probably going to get some instructions telling you about the specific gravity of the water and what it should be with the glaze. What this means is pretty much just how much water weight you add to the amount of dry material that you have. However, this is always usually 1-to-1. If you've ever made sourdough, it's usually equal parts water and equal parts flour, 1-to-1. Same thing with here, same thing with these dry glazes, except it's very toxic and we're gonna be wearing one of these. So get yourself a little respirator. I'm sure you look really cute in it. I am embarrassed to say that one time I didn't have a respirator, and instead of using a mask or something, I actually just held my breath and ran far away to breathe in between mixing and pouring out the powder. So don't do that. I probably looked like an idiot, and I don't want to be an idiot who gets cancer. Pouring the powder into the bucket, I put the powder first and then the water. I try to hold the bag closer to the bottom of the bucket so that a ton of dust doesn't come pouring and poofing up into your face. Now, I do eyeball the water. Don't come after me. I used to measure, and whenever I measured, it just took forever and I ended up not getting consistent results. So through experimenting, okay? Through experimenting, I have been able to eyeball the water and get familiar with the types of glazes that I'm using and know like the look of the consistency. So don't do this in the beginning, but maybe ease into it as you go. I'm using a little bit of water that's looking like a little under the 1-to-1 ratio because we can always add more water. I am being cautious and I am eyeballing it. Eyeball that water, give it a good mix. Your glaze usually probably does come with instructions, and if it doesn't come with instructions, you can look up the glaze name or glaze number online and you will probably find instructions there. If you want to be a little bit more logical and look at the density ratio in the water, you can always look up the instructions and follow it that way. It will also tell you if you need to sieve it or not. Most glazes, most commercial glazes do not need to be sieved. None of these need to be sieved. Some glazes that you make, if you personally make glazes, or some other different commercial glazes might need to be sieved. So pay attention to if that needs to happen because typically those glazes are very, very chunky. The first mix is the most important mix. You want to be mixing for 3 to 5 minutes. And you'll see some bubbles come up, you'll see the water being absorbed, you'll see the powder kind of puffing up. And even when you stop seeing these things, keep mixing for 3 to 5 minutes. I am using an electric drill with a paint mixing attachment, but you can also use a toilet brush cleaner because they have those really nice bristles that get in between all the different elements in there. You can also use a whisk or a spoon or, any kind of mixing apparatus. Whew, we are all done mixing. If this is your first time mixing, honestly, I would not recommend eyeballing it. I would recommend for each of your different glazes, write down if you put in a liter or however much water you put in, because there's a lot of these glazes that I'm repeating, and so I'm very familiar with. For example, Makoshino usually runs thick, so I like to see a certain consistency, and that's how I know that it's the right amount of water. I do have a new glaze that I'm working with. Hopefully we'll like it. It's called Peach by my local supplier in Elk Grove. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what that turns out like. But I do know that kind of lighter colors like yellow and peaches and oranges, they can run really like sheer. So I might want that thicker. But I do tend to dip most of my pieces. I never really brush them. If you're buying pints, they have something added in those pints to make them have better brushability and a better, thicker consistency. And these powders do not have that. So they're gonna be more watery and thinner because they're meant to be dipped. Of course, you can definitely add too much water and not be able to take it back unless you buy more powder and add that to it to correct it. And you can always, add more in the future. So hold back a little bit if you're on the fence, go a little bit under and give it a mix. Like we went over, it's really important for you to give a really long mix in the beginning. And the next step is to let it sit for 24 hours minimum. You can let it sit for longer than 24 hours, but if you're anything like me, you're way too excited to get some tests going, so 24 hours minimum. This allows it to absorb the water completely and be a homogeneous density and absorb all the powder, the water, you get it. It's actually been really nice to have the garage door open, and I'm actually not even that cold. I'm surprised I'm saying that. Well, I am wearing fleece-lined leggings underneath, and I have some Lulu pants that I found on Depop. So layers is key if you're gonna be doing this outside in the wintertime. It's also really nice to have the garage door open because I don't have a lot of good air ventilation. I need to get an air purifier, but my method of doing that at the moment is opening the garage, letting it sit, and sometimes taking a leaf blower and blowing everything out. The next step, let it sit 24 hours and we will come and check on them. So tomorrow we're gonna adjust the water once we do a few tests to it, and then after doing actual dip tests and test tiles and firing them, will we truly be able to see the fruits of our labor and the exciting results of the glaze. I know this is midpoint through the video, but if you have any questions or any recommendations or any thoughts, or if you have things that you're trying out and excited about, I would love to hear them. I think that sharing glaze recipes and ideas and anything to do with art and pottery is one of my favorite things about this community, so let's share with each other. I would love to hear what you're working on. See you tomorrow. It's 24 hours later, the next day. It is so much colder out. There's snow on the ground, so I moved the buckets in towards the back of my studio garage space next to the warm kiln, so we're all right. Another thing that happened in the last 24 hours is that I put one of those heatless curl things in my hair and I slept on it, and now I'm a puffball, so ignore that. We're gonna focus on the glazes. There's a few tests that we want to do after the 24 hours to check the viscosity of the glaze. We want to know if it is too thick or if it's too thin. We might have to add some powder to it, but hopefully it's not too thin. Hopefully it'll be perfect, or we'll need to add just a little bit of water. There's a few ways that you can check the viscosity, and I'm gonna show you. I hate when people say, I'm gonna show you. Like, obviously I'm gonna show you, this is a YouTube video. We're gonna check the viscosity. Let's go. This one is the floating blue, this one is the copper float, and then this one is the Mako Shino. The water has separated and come to the top, and the heavier powdered elements has fallen to the bottom. That's just because they're heavier than water, and this is always why it's really important to mix your glazes before you use them. Here we go. That's the Mako Shino in there, and this is why it's so important to write down your glaze combination or whatever it is on the outside of the bin, because I have way too many mystery buckets that didn't need to be a mystery. Now, the tests that we'll need to do to test the viscosity is a stir test, a finger test, and a drip test. Now, after we got that mixed up, the stir test is you go and you stir it until it gets going in a circle, and then you take it out and count how many times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it keeps going a little bit. So if it stops going in a circle less than 5 times, it is too thick. So if it only goes in a circle 1, 2, and it starts to slow down 3, and then it just stays completely still, that means it's too thick and you'll need to add some water. This got to 5 and a little after, so I would say it's a perfect consistency for dipping. So I'm gonna leave this one alone. So the finger test is if you dip your finger in the glaze, you should start to see the outline of your fingernail and the cuticle start to separate over that. This Makoshino is a little bit thick because I'm not seeing the outline of my fingernail and my cuticle as well as I should. So you guessed it, I'm going to add some water to this one. One, two, three, and almost 4. So this paintbrush, you can use your finger or paintbrush, anything that doesn't like pool or like, you know, you'll be able to count the amount of drips. So just like the stirs, you'll want to see it go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And for the drips, you'll want to see it drip about 5 times. 4, it depends on the glaze. If the glaze is tends to be more sheer, I would say don't add any more water at 4. I haven't used copper float before, so I'm going to do a test for this one before I add some more water. I know for sure that the Makoshino runs thick, so the fact that it didn't separate around my finger means I will for sure need to add water. And for the floating blue, I also haven't used this one before, and it definitely seemed to go around more than 5 times, so I'm not going to add any more water and definitely do some tests. So we have the stir test, the drip test, and the fingernail test. Depending on what you know about these glazes and the familiarity of them, honestly, testing is most important. So don't take my 100% word for, like, if it goes around 5 times or drips 5 times off of your finger, like, it's completely perfect. A lot of glazes are so temperamental and they have their own personalities and their own little quirks that kind of you'll need to work with them in order to make them work for you. These are 3 tests that help me figure out whether I need to add some more water or some more powder to my glazes. I hope this video was helpful. I just threw off the hump some of these to do my tests with. I've used shapes like that for test tiles. I've thrown little things like this for test tiles. I've also just like made a lot of little tiny itty bitty vases for test tiles. Honestly, it is whatever works for you. I know a lot of people make things that they can poke a hole on and stick up on the wall. I don't have enough wall space, so I have to have things that stand up, and I'm just experimenting which one has the most surface area coverage, how it helps with the drippage, what can give me the best result if I have room to write on the bottom. Anything that works for you. Honestly, what matters is that you keep experimenting, you keep finding joy in the process, and you keep remembering that art is so important, and so are you. I'll see you in the next one.